Call the meeting to order. Good evening. It is July 24th, 2024. Time now is 7:31 p.m. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge. I'll turn over to our counsel, Ms. Steinle, for the open meetings notice.
All right, thank you. This meeting of the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge is being held remotely and recorded via Zoom due to Borough Council Chambers unavailability and is in compliance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act and associated regulations. Notice of this remote meeting was published in the Bergen Record, posted on the front doors of Borough Hall, and posted on the borough's website. The notice included the dial-in login information for public participation and access to this meeting remotely. A copy of the agenda for this meeting was made available on the borough's website near the posting of the meeting notice and included dial-in and login information. During the public comment portion of this meeting, if you would like to make a public comment, please press the raise hand button on Zoom or dial *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand. The board will address you by name or the last 4 digits of your telephone number. You may mute and unmute yourself by pressing the microphone icon on Zoom or dialing *6 on your telephone keypad. You must state your name and address prior to making a public comment.
Okay, thank you. And when you have a moment, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, the mayor is absent just at the moment. We'll be joining later. Mr. Caslin?
Here.
Ms. Boland?
Here.
Mr. Merman?
Here.
Mr. Pfeffer?
Here.
Mr. Cray?
Here.
Mr. Kanigo?
Here.
Councilman Glass is also absent for the moment and will be joining later. Mr. Gibbons?
Here.
And Mr. Bastide.
Here.
Also present, we have our board planner, Mr. Behrens, and our board engineer, Mr. Flores.
Okay, thank you very much. Our first item on the agenda this evening is under the approval of minutes. We tabled this from our last meeting. We have a draft set of minutes from our June 26, 2024 meeting. Draft was made available for review prior to the meeting, and I open it to the board for comments or questions.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Mr. Merman.
I reviewed those minutes and I find them acceptable. And I recommend that they be voted for approval, barring any other comments from other board members.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other comments, questions from the board on the minutes for the 26th? Okay, there being none, I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes as drafted.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Boland. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bastide. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain?
Abstain.
Mr. Kanigo.
Mr. Kanigo and Mr. Gibbons were absent at that meeting.
Okay, we'll let the record reflect that then. Okay, we do not have minutes for our July 10th meeting, so we will move forward on the agenda. Under memorializations, our first item this evening is Carmelo and Kiang Vasquez. Property is 792 Park Avenue, Block 213, Lot 21. We have a resolution granting variance relief. Draft of the resolution was circulated to the board prior to this evening's meeting. Open it to the board for comments, questions on the draft resolution.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Merman.
Likewise, I reviewed this memorialization and found it in order, and barring any other comments from board members, I'll recommend it for approval.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other comments, questions from the board on the Vasquez resolution? Okay, there being none, I will look for a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Boland. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cray, thank
Mr.
you.
Cray.
Oh, is that the word? I'm sorry.
absent?
I was thinking of Mullenay. Okay, sorry.
Okay. Who can we have? Who's eligible to give us a second?
Everyone except for Mr. Cray, Mr. Gibbons, and Mr. Bastide.
I guess I'll sit. Oh, okay.
I think I got Mr. Kanigo. Okay.
All right, and I'll only call those who are eligible to vote. Mr. Caslin?
Yes.
Ms. Boland?
Yes.
Mr. Merman?
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Kenigo?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Next item under memorializations this evening is J and L Hunt. James and Larissa Hunt. Properties 216 Dorchester Road, block 708, lot 20. We have a resolution granting variance relief. Draft of the resolution was circulated to the board prior to this evening's meeting. Open it to comments, questions from the board.
Mr. Chairman, likewise, I reviewed this memorialization and find it acceptable, barring any other comments from board members. And I recommend that it be, I recommend its approval.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any additional comments, questions from the board on this resolution? Okay, there being none, I'll look for a motion to approve the resolution, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Boland. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kenigo.
And I'll only call those eligible. Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes,
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Kenigo,
Yes.
and the motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Last item this evening under memorializations, Martin Molinet, property is 800 Summit Avenue, block 206, lot 11. Resolution granting variance relief. A draft was circulated to the board prior to this evening's meeting. Open it to the board for comments or questions on the draft as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I reviewed this memorialization, particularly from the standpoint of the new work being done on site, and I find it very acceptable and recommend it for approval, barring any other comments from the board members.
Thanks for the, excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Merman. Any other comments, questions from the board? There being none, I'll look for a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Kenigo. Is there a second?
Oh, Mr. Kenigo was absent at that meeting.
I take it back.
Appreciate the effort.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Boland. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Pfeffer.
All right, and I'll only call those eligible. Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes,
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
and Mr. Cray,
Yes.
and Mr. Bastide.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. One housekeeping item before we move on to our next agenda item. We are going to have a curfew this evening of 9:45 p.m. With that, we're going to move now further into the agenda under completeness review. First item is Sweet Spot River Edge LLC. Property is 75 Route 4 East. This is block 415, I'm sorry, block 1415, lot 1.01. Applicant is proposing to operate a Class 5 retail cannabis dispensary on the subject property. Ms. Steinle.
Yes, thank you. So prior to this meeting, I reviewed the proof submitted by the applicant's attorney, which included publication in the newspaper and notice to individuals with or property owners within 200 feet of the property located, which is located partially in River Edge and partially in neighboring municipality. So the applicant attorney obtained the 200-foot list from all those municipalities. I checked them. They're good to go for us to hear the application tonight.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Barretts, good evening.
Sure, good evening. So from a plan completeness standpoint, the applicant submitted an accurate, what seems to be an accurate property survey, site plans, as well as architectural plans for the proposed cannabis retail establishment. Those documents appear to be sufficient for the board to proceed this evening. We do have some technical questions, which I believe we can answer throughout the course of the hearing.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Flores.
Good evening, everybody. Our office review the site plan prepared by Neglia Engineering, the survey of the existing conditions, the architectural plans prepared by Dennis McCowell from Cowell Group, and the traffic study prepared by Neglia Engineering, the zoning review from Mr. Depkins, and we find all the information accurate and technical complete. So my recommendation is to the board to the application can proceed to be heard tonight. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Flores. Comments, questions from the board as to completeness? Okay, there being none, I'll look for a motion to deem the application complete.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons on that, on a first, and Mr. Cray on a second.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes,
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes,
Mr. Canigo,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
and Mr. Bastide.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We're going to now move our agenda items around for the sake of expediency and efficiency. We're going to move into old business first this evening. We're going to application for Bertini. This is 831 Kinder Road, Block 206, Lot 9.02. Application seeking a DEU variance. Mr. Barrett, good evening.
good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thomas J. Barrett for the applicant. I believe that the revised plan submitted complied with all of the requests of the board. We did get a further review letter from Mr. Costa. I'd like to run through that with my applicant, with our engineer, and with our architect. I believe that if the board sees fit to grant an approval this evening, it can be conditioned on certain of the items that we have not yet provided. However, addressing Mr. O'Donnell's letter from Mr. Costa's office, on page 2, there were questions regarding the coverage. And at this point, I'd like to call upon Sean McClellan, our engineer. And Sean, have you been sworn in yet on this application?
I don't believe so,
Okay.
No.
hello, Sean. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name and your address for the record, and just refresh the board on your qualifications.
Sure, Sean McClellan, last name spelled McClellan. Business address is 84 Gettysburg Way, Lincoln Park, New Jersey. I graduated New Jersey Institute of Technology in 1997 with a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. I've been a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey since 2004. I've testified at boards in Morris, Essex, Hudson, Passaic, and Bergen counties, and I've been in front of this board several times.
Any questions from the board as to Mr. McClellan's qualifications? Okay, Mr. Barrett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McClellan, I call your attention to page 2 of Mr. O'Donnell's review letter, more particularly the bottom, talking about lot and improved lot coverage. Could you advise the board of your calculations regarding those?
Sure. So I came up with a number for impervious coverage of 5,649 or 37.6% existing. And with the changes we're making in regards to the parking area, the proposed will be 5,903 or 39.5% for an increase of 254 square feet.
And both of which, in accordance with the chart on that same page, are less than the permitted coverages.
Yes, we're allowed 80%. So even under proposed conditions, we're less than half what we're allowed.
Thank you. And then Mr. Bertini, some of these questions I think you have the ability to answer. And this is under the general comments. And the question was whether there are any exterior improvements where the metal canopy actually was. It's no longer there. Do you plan anything for that particular portion of the site?
No, the canopy's been removed and nothing is going in its place.
All right. And to your knowledge, there have been, you haven't come across any records of any prior approvals for any improvements on the property?
Prior to our purchasing the property, no.
And you already testified, but I'm just asking you to confirm that if the application is approved, that the office space in the basement will not be, nor will it be converted into a living area. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And again, just briefly tell the board the nature of your business and what kind of storage will take place on the premises.
Sure. So the nature of my business, I just buy and renovate properties. I work through a realtor, so it's not client facing. The office would not, have any clients. It's just me, and so there would be no employees except for myself. The storage downstairs would be general storage for nothing larger than a skill saw or a drill. And then the shed would store some larger items. There would be no outside commercial storage.
Thank you. And then there was a change to the plan where the space had formerly been marked as, I believe it was commercial. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm skipping ahead. In terms of the parking spaces, are any of them dedicated for office space or vehicular storage?
Well, for the office space as required, there would be either one or two spots. There would be spaces for the office. And because I know the issue of the storage in the shed and the shed door came up, the shed would be mine as part of the commercial use. And so that spot in front of the shed door would be designated for me or the commercial tenant.
Okay. And if approved, we will have Mr. McClellan mark on the site plan the required pavement marking symbols and signage for the handicap space. And Mr. McClellan, back to you. Can you confirm that the handicap parking space has a maximum cross slope of 2%?
Yeah, so based upon my site visit, as you can see, that the survey or site plan doesn't have any topography, but where we're putting the proposed handicap space is on top of the existing concrete patio, which based on my visual inspection is fairly flat, so we will comply with the 2%.
And that as far as the accessible routes, parking spaces, curb ramps, etc., they will all conform to ADA standards?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And again, if the board sees fit to approve, you can revise your plan to show the asphalt pavement at spaces 5, 6, and 7, including the details of the asphalt, etc.
I will, yes.
I have nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Excuse me, turn to our professionals at this time. Mr. Behrens.
Sure. Yeah, it sounds like the applicant addressed at least most of the questions. Just to confirm, Mr. McClellan, what is the date of the latest site plan? So I know there's some
Sure.
confusion last time about the dates.
So the plan is dated June 26th, 2024, last revised July 10th, 2024.
Okay, and how many parking spaces total do you show on that plan now?
We show 7 spaces.
7 spaces. And one of the questions we were wrestling with last time was, what the appropriate parking requirement should be, which was contingent upon the mix of uses, meaning, the first floor and the second floor would each be 1-bedroom units. And there was a question of, how the basement would, be characterized and what the parking requirement would be. So, based on your professional opinion and understanding of the ordinance, what do you perceive the parking requirement to be at this point?
Well, it was, I believe it was required 4 for the just the general building, and then 1.5 for each unit, so 7 spaces.
All right, so you're compliant at this point,
Correct, yes.
and you've provided the requested or required handicap space.
Correct, yeah, it's van accessible, so it's an 8-foot space with an 8-foot wide striping for van accessibility.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, no further questions at this time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barnes. Mr. Flores.
Good evening, everybody again. The only comment that I have is regarding the space that is in front of the shed, but I guess the applicant already addressed that that will be designated specifically for his own use. If there is any chance that he can relocate that space not to be in front of the door, will be good. But that will be depend on the board. That's if you proceed with the application and you vote, just noted that parking is in front of an existing door. Other than that, the applicant addressed most of the comments. That on the previous meeting. I only have one question. So this popped up in the morning when I had a meeting with Rob. Apparently, they were supposed to show the window well on the site plan, which is not shown. Can I get a clarification on that, just to put that on the record? The window well
Sure,
for the plan. Yep.
Yeah, I'll show that with when I make the revisions for the parking area.
Okay, so I'm just to make sure, so it doesn't interfere with the concrete walkway. So
Right, Mr. Bertini, you and I discussed that this morning.
Yes, it doesn't interfere with the walkway. I can present as an exhibit a picture showing the measurement with a tape measure from the walkway to the brick underneath to where the egress window would be, if that would help. But
Well, your testimony is that it will not interfere,
that's correct.
and you personally measured it.
Correct.
And it is shown on the architectural plan now.
It is shown on the architectural plans.
Right, it didn't quite make it to the site plan, but again, certainly can be a condition of approval.
okay. As a review letter, address the drainage. As every applicant in town needs to address the drainage. And other than that, I don't have any other comments.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Flores. We'll turn to the board now for comments. Ms. Boland, I'll start with you.
Everything's been answered. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cray.
Nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kanigo.
I'm good. Thanks, Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Gibbons.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pfeffer.
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bustede.
Yeah, just one real quick clarification. The handicap spot, is that the 8th spot or is that the 7th spot? Just so I'm clear.
Yeah, I can just share my screen real quick.
Sure.
Let me know when you see that.
Yep.
We see it.
Okay, so just going, the first, we just have them labeled. So the first one is in front of the shed.
Yep.
We have 2, 3, 4, and then this is the van accessible striping, and the handicap space is space number 5 here.
Okay,
And
so
then
5
6, 7.
is 5 is the handicap space.
Yes,
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
sure.
Nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bustede. Mr. Merman.
Okay, well, we're looking at I have several comments. While we're looking at the site plan, when you revise that drawing, you will also show the signage required for the handicap, the standard signage.
Yes,
Okay, so you'll note that on your revised plan. What was that? Okay, so you will revise accordingly and show the sign and the sign details and so forth, correct?
yes, correct, yes.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to the architectural plans. I've looked at these and I've noticed one of the previous comments I had was regarding the travel way from when you come in the door to the second floor. You show a step, whatever, that's fine. So I'll accept what you got. I don't think it's exactly correct, but I'll accept it Let's move to, a 2.0, please. If the architect can call that up on the screen, I'd appreciate it.
Mr. Barrett, does,
We-
or Mr. Bertini, do you have access to the architectural plans you can share on the screen with us?
Yes. Which page are we looking at? It cut for a second there.
A 2.0.
Okay, so the floor. We're here. What was the, oh, my internet connection is unstable.
Oh, I think they might be frozen.
Yeah.
Hello?
We can
Hello?
hear you, but we can't, okay, that,
There we go.
My internet decided to cut off for a second.
yeah, I think we're getting you audio and video looks delayed.
What was the question again?
Okay, I can hear you fine. So if Mr. Merman could just restate his comment about drawing a 2.0.
Okay, can we somehow pull that up on the screen at that drawing?
Yeah, I'll share that. And what I'm going to share is, I guess, the latest version of the plans that are on the borough's website under today's meeting date. So hopefully these are the accurate plans. Bear with me while I navigate this real quick. All right, Mr. Merman, which page are we on? Page two.
A 2.0. Yeah.
Sorry.
And is that, it should be revision 4, Tom.
Yeah, I think that's the case.
Right here.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, fine. This drawing has now been revised, and you have.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. I'm referring to the revision that you have in this drawing, which shows existing circular stair and so on and so on. And you show a dotted square plus
over here.
some other lines, okay? I'm referring to that. Explain to me what those dotted lines are.
Fold down staircase. It's a fold down staircase.
Okay. You have not shown what I was originally asking for you folks to do, which was a plan of the open loft. So I tell you what we're gonna do. You're going to delete what you show right there, and we're gonna make what we call an attic plan. So you're gonna, because that open loft was at the attic level. So you're gonna draw an attic plan, and you're gonna show the configuration of that level, which, as I recall from my field visit, was an open space with a closet. And then you're gonna label that attic plan accordingly, which basically would say open storage only, no sleeping permitted without the Borough Land Use Board approval. And if you want to indicate your access, that's fine. I want to clear up that whole area to make sure that it is used only for storage and not for sleeping. And I think this is the best way to clarify and clear it all up. And what it will do is it will be a record, and at some time If the code enforcement official has to come in and verify that, he has a document by which to verify it. So I would appreciate very much that you make that attic plan for the next submittal.
Mr. Merman, would you be satisfied though to make that a condition in the resolution that prior to
No.
the issuance of
No.
the CO, that plan be submitted for your and everybody else's review? Rather
No.
than for one item
No.
to make us come back?
It's not, you haven't even had a public hearing yet.
I beg your pardon?
Did you have a public hearing?
We've had two.
You had two.
I think Mr. Murray's question has the public commented on the application.
Oh, I'm
Is
sorry.
that your question?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, no, I don't think we have not had this application open for public comment yet. I think that's the
Correct.
clarification.
So does that answer your question, Mr. Barrett?
No, I did not understand your comment.
Okay. Should I repeat them?
No.
Okay.
About the public hearing.
Okay, all right.
No,
I meant public participation, all right?
Thank you.
Not public hearing,
I understand.
all right. Okay, so we're going to present what we call an attic plan, and you're going to show the open space layout on the attic plan, plus what are the other notes that I asked for. Okay,
But Mr. Barrett, you would agree to provide the attic plan as a condition of the approval subject to the board professional review and as a condition prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy?
Absolutely. And with the note that Mr. Merman requires, and that too can be part of the resolution.
Yeah,
that
with the
sleeps-
note that it will be labeled as open space, open storage only, no sleeping area without further borough approval.
That is correct.
you will have it ready for the next meeting? But we still have to have the public.
Correct, but what I've asked for is that if the board sees fit to approve the application, that it be a condition, as Ms. Steinley just said, that it be submitted prior to the issuance of any certificate of occupancy, and that it be part of the resolution, that one of the conditions of the resolution is that it shall not be used for anything other than storage, cannot be used as a sleeping area without further application to the board and to the borough for further approvals.
Mr. Barrett, this is our fourth time around at these set of plans. I want to see what I asked for before I agree to it.
There's a
I'm
note
not
on that that
confident.
says exactly what you asked for, that is, the attic level is for open storage only. The circular staircase has been removed. Drop-in stair has been provided. All you're looking for is another sketch, which will be provided, and as a condition of the approval, and in addition, you won't be able to use the second floor apartment until he has a CO. So if he doesn't comply, he's got an empty space he can't use.
You're only using an empty space for storage and not for sleeping, and I want to make sure that occurs.
Well, correct, and I've
Is there
said
any,
that.
I hear you. Is there any way you can shoot an advance copy of that to me?
Mr.
Absolutely.
Barrett, do you think it would be able to be available before the memorialization?
Mr. Kufo?
We don't have, our next meeting is at the end of August.
Correct. I'm just
There's-
checking with the architect.
There's no problem with getting a copy to the board prior to the memorialization of this application,
I mean, at least a week in advance,
at
just in
least.
case there's any
No,
comments from
even-
Mr. Merman or any of the other members.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Merman, does that work for you?
Yes, as long as I see it ahead of time in hard copy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Let's move to the basement. A 3.0. Can you call that up? That's good. That's good. Likewise, we have always said that, we have the proposed office, you provided the, means of egress, which is great. But we're looking at that storage area. I would like a note added somewheres in that storage area that basically says storage only, additional use by land use board approval only. Inserted under the word storage.
I'll add to that. On that same topic, Mr. Depkin expressed that there should be no fuel or tools that, you know, use fuel stored in the basement also.
All right.
Common sense, but I think, you know, just so any current or future tenant is aware.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
So
Those will be on there.
likewise, when you shoot the other one, you'll give me a copy of that, or at least the board, for that.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I think that's all I have tonight, regarding your application, Mr. Barrett. We want to move this on because we got a huge application we're going to be working with for a number of meetings. And I didn't want you to be held up.
Thank you.
All right. So I have nothing more, Mr. Chairman, on
Thank
this
you.
application.
Thank you, Mr. Merman. I have no further comments on my part. So that being the case, I think at this time we will move to public comment on this application. Can I have a motion to open to the public, please?
Motion open to public.
Second.
Okay, first and Mr. Cray and a second, Mr. Gibbons, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? Okay, at this time, we're now open to the public for comment on this application only. Again, this is the application for Bertini Properties, 831 Kindercamack Road. Do we have anybody?
There are members of the public here, so if you're interested in making a comment or asking a question on this application, press the raise hand button on Zoom or dial *9 on your, I don't think anyone's on the phone.
We'll give it a couple of seconds.
I think we're good.
Okay, seeing that none of the attendees wish to make a public comment on this application, I'll look to a motion to close to the public.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, Mr. Kenigo on a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? Okay, we now stand closed for public comment on this application alone. Final comments, questions from the board on the application? Okay, there being none, I will look for a motion on the application at this time.
I move we accept.
Whoa.
And-
You're approving something that I haven't even seen what I asked for?
Mr. Merman,
You
the
agreed-
applicant's attorney or Mr. Barrett agreed to provide the documents before any the revised plans before any memorialization, and to the condition that it would be provided before a CO was issued.
Okay. All right. That's fine.
Okay,
Okay, so
Mr.
I
Craig,
move that we accept the application with the conditions that the drawings reflect the attic and the access to the attic, and note that it is for storage, and that the basement is also noted for storage only with no additional use without board approval, and no storage of any flammable goods. And that drawings to that effect will be provided prior to memorialization and issuance of any certificate of occupancy.
And I have a couple additional conditions from the prior meetings and today, that signed and sealed drawings would be provided. The applicant agreed to comply with the board engineer's reports and comments. Parking details would be provided. The basement area will be labeled for storage only as described before. And then tonight, there was a discussion and it was agreed that the ADA signage would be added to the plans and markings. The window well would also be included in the engineering site plan and will not interfere with the walkway. And if it does interfere, the walkway will be adjusted, and that the office space will not be converted to a living area without further approval.
If I could just ask for clarification, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
It's only the two architectural drawings that need to be submitted though before the memorialization. The others will be a condition of the approval. Is that correct?
I believe that's what the understanding I have.
Thank you.
Fine.
Okay, so with those, Mr. Cray's motion, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons.
All right, and I'll only call those eligible. Mr. Gibbons did watch the video from the last meeting, but Mr. Kanigo didn't have a chance to do that.
Okay,
So Mr. Caslin,
yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Bastide.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. It required 5 affirmative votes and there are 7.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Mr. Barrett, Mr. Bertini, thank you. Good luck with your project.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night now.
Thank you now. Bye-bye.
Okay. So we're going to shift into new business under our agenda. We just have a couple of just the board, just the screen shifting around here. Okay. Okay. Let the record reflect Councilman Glass in attendance at 8:13 p.m. Good evening, Councilman.
Good evening. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Right, for under new business, we have an application for Sweet Spot River Edge LLC. Property is 75 Route 4 East, Block 1415, Lot 1.01. This is an application seeking site plan approval for the operation of a Class 5 retail cannabis dispensary. In addition to our professionals this evening, also in attendance for the record is Chief Mike Walker of the River Edge Police Department. And I believe applicant's counsel, I did see here a moment ago, Mr. Gilson, good evening.
Good evening, Chairman. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Matthew Gilson from the law firm of Murphy, Schiller, and Wilkes. And I'm here tonight on behalf of Sweet Spot River Edge LLC, the holder of a conditional, which means waiting your approval, Class 5 cannabis license from the state of New Jersey. And we were given our resolution of support from the Borough Council back in June. We're here tonight for a site plan application for same, for, as you noted, block 1415, lot 1.01. This is the Liberty Travel Building. The property also encompasses the Ethan Allen and the next door building. And as your engineer highlighted, potentially block 580, lot 1 in Hackensack, though no improvements are proposed for that. So I just want to let you know tonight, we are seeking site plan approval. Your engineer flagged one variance related to display tables. We are going to drop that from our plans. So it is our position that tonight's application will need no variances. I'll have 3 witnesses for you tonight. Blake Costa from Sweet Spot Farms, who will discuss operations and security. John Dunley, our civil engineer, and Brian Intindola, our traffic engineer. Our architect is also available should you have questions, but Mr. Costa is going to discuss, no relation to your board engineer, Mr. Costa is going to discuss the operations and security of the site. So at this time, I would like to call Mr. Costa as my first witness.
Thank you,
Okay.
Matthew. Mr. Chairman, members,
Mr. Costa, before you proceed, Ms. Steinle, would you swear in Mr. Costa, please?
Yep, if you please raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, please state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record.
Blake Costa, Costa, address 5 Ann Court, Warren, Rhode Island.
Mr. Costa, can you please describe your relationship to the applicant, your role with Sweet Spot Farms?
Yeah, so my name is Blake Costa. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Sweet Spot Farms. I've been with Sweet Spot Farms since day one. As you are aware, we operate multiple cannabis dispensaries and cultivation facilities throughout the East Coast. My primary focus as a Chief Operating Officer is on day-to-day operations and some of the and supporting our CEO and strategy. Our day-to-day operations include retail operations, cultivation operations, construction operations, technology support, and safety and security. Through that, I have served in every capacity in our company and have a deep understanding of not only the operations, but the physical security and the additional support that's needed to ensure that we are good neighbors and stewards of the community. Further to attest to my credentials, I spent 17 years in the military. During that time, my 5 years were in the Marine Corps as an embassy guard, and I supported the Obama administration during multiple trips abroad. Additionally, I served as an intelligence officer and a medic. That brought me here to cannabis. And then lastly, just as you guys are passionate about your town, I'm passionate about my town. I'm a member of my local planning board. And just, you know, a little side note, I commend you on your efficiencies I've seen in the council meetings and your planning board meetings. Your structure is phenomenal, and the way you guys move is something I'd like to bring back to my board. So thank you for that. But
Mr. Costa, to help the board tonight, have you prepared an exhibit that runs us through the operations proposed at the location?
yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, if that's okay, and I'm going to play a video of our Voorhees, New Jersey retail location and kind of walk you through some of the operational aspects and security aspects. If anyone has a question during that time, I just ask if we could save it for the end, and I can always go back on the video and we can replay it. So with that being said,
All right, and we'll mark the video as exhibit A1, and could you just describe it and let me know and who prepared it, the date it was prepared?
the video was prepared in April by us, Sweet Spot, one of our Thomas Liu, who is a direct marketing director for Sweet Spot. And the video is a walkthrough of our Voorhees, New Jersey retail location.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so are we able to see my screen with the video player?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so this is what the aesthetics look like outside of our store. They typically, we don't have flashy signs. We don't have cannabis cannabis signs everywhere. If people are coming to a dispensary, they know where they're going. We're not trying to advertise on billboards and say, hey, we're right here with neon signs. Everyone knows where they're going. So our facilities have a very similar look here. A green Sweet Spot sign, the word dispensary, dark sky compliant lighting, and then the state regulatory requirements require us to have opaque window coverings, as you see here. As far as being good stewards of the community, we had many co-tenants such as FedEx, UPS, Domino's, basketball camps, baseball camps. So we value our respect for our neighbors, and through that, we'll talk more about how we mitigate odor, manage parking, and ensure there's no negative impact from smell, sound, or visual effects to our neighbors or the community. Now, as you walk into the store, you'll notice a lot of aesthetics are warm and welcoming. We look at our operations as an educational piece and not necessarily just a liquor store where people are coming to buy cannabis. Here's where people are coming to learn about cannabis. And that all starts at reception. When someone enters reception in a New Jersey store, it's a secure reception area, meaning you cannot access inside the store without having your ID checked to verify you're of age and that you have a valid ID. And if you are a medical patient, to verify that you have a medical card. This will be staffed by a Sweet Spot employee, and it will also be staffed by an unarmed security guard. The intent of the unarmed security guard is for safety and traffic control if needed. So if we have someone that's, let's say someone parked in a 15-minute spot and that car's been there for 30 minutes, the security officer can go ahead and figure out who that individual is and ask them to move their car. In addition, they can support in reception duties such as checking IDs and organizing documentation. So once the ID is verified, the individual is put into our point of sale system and they can proceed into the store. Inside the store, they'll be presented with a lot of educational materials on the consumption, the type of products we carry, the different varieties of product categories that are on site. When we do talk about product being in the store, there will be no cannabis product on display in the store other than those products stored in the glass case right here. That is our cannabis flower product that's stored in a security state compliant case. All other displays are of empty packaging. So a customer will never be able to handle cannabis product until they make their purchase, receive their receipt, and go to exit the dispensary. Here, you'll see some of the dummy packaging I'm talking about. These are all empty packaging that we use on our shelves to display the variety of products. A common question we have is, how is payment managed? So as you can see, we do manage an ATM on site. Around 70% of our transactions are cashless. We do not do credit card transactions. What we do is cashless ATM transactions. So an individual is able to use their debit card on a cashless system that limits the amount of cash we keep on site and creates efficiencies in the customer checkout process. So how a customer is going to check out is they'll find out what cannabis products they need. They'll discuss that with one of our patient counselors, and that individual will put in the order. That order is sent to our back room where inventory teams are going to work to prepare that order. So back in the inventory room, this is where all the cannabis product is kept. This is a secure area where receipts are printed out, orders are fulfilled. In addition to this area, we also have our DEA schedule, our Class M vault, where the product will live inside. So we will have a modular vault built off-site in New Jersey, brought on site and assembled by a certified installer. And this vault meets a requirement for DEA Schedule I storage. So that's a Class M walls, floor, ceiling, and a Schedule 5 or a Class 5 door. So the order's fulfilled in the back. They're checking to make sure that they have the right product. And then he's going to pass it through a secure container, just like you'd have at a doctor's office. There, the patient counselor can receive the product. They'll review the product with the customer to make sure the customer understands what they're getting, answer any questions they may have, and educate them on the consumption or the safe consumption methods. Additionally, at this time, we would ensure that customers understand that they are not allowed per state regulations to consume on premises. And then the customer will exit through the reception which they came. The facility itself is protected by a Verkada security system. Verkada is a cloud-based and server-based hybrid security system. So we maintain 90 days of video footage on site. We also shoot up to the cloud. Verkada is monitored by a 24/7 by a third-party monitoring company that has access to all of our cameras, our doors, and then they can also talk down individuals through a speaker. So let's say you had a loiterer, someone loitering in your parking lot after hours, you could get on the speaker and say, hey, we need you to move on, so on and so forth. Such devices we would use as motion sensors, glass break, cameras with motion enabled and night vision, door contacts. We do RFID access control, which is logged into the Verkada system. And then the Vault is also tied in the Verkada system with seismic sensors that are integrated throughout the door and create a continuity throughout the panels. So if that's broken, it'll set it into alarm. The whole system runs on a battery backup that can support 8 hours of security operations. In addition, we would have a natural gas generator that can support us as long as we have natural gas from the county. And that's kind of a walkthrough of how our New Jersey store would look in your town. You could expect the same aesthetics, the same style of operations, the same workflow, and the same procedures.
So, Mr. Costa, I just have a couple follow-up questions for you. As I stated in our opening, the applicant is agreeable to remove the display tables that the engineer has flagged as a D variance?
100%. We already spoken with the teams and we've noted it, and they've been removed from our plans.
Can you confirm that there'll be no consumption on site?
There will be no consumption on site, and we'll be proactive to ensure customers are educated. And if they do consume on site, they would be addressed by security and then potentially banned from the store depending on the circumstances.
And as was noted in the engineer's letter as well, we did submit our security plan to the police department.
We did.
Can you describe the glass and how that you have on the outside of the store and the safety measures that you take regarding that?
So there's a lot of glass around the store. So one, it will be opaque film over it so you can't see in. And then two, on the inside, we will apply 3M safety film. This is common protective measures you'll see at government buildings or schools. What the 3M safety film will do is prevent the glass from shattering and essentially make it almost like a piece of lumber where they would have to cut through it.
And our landlord maintains a personal office that's in a portion of this building, correct?
Correct.
And there's no way to access the cannabis store from the office space, correct?
Correct. There'll be no access. The only two access points will be for customer entrance and then employee entrance, as well as cannabis delivery.
And since you brought up delivery, always a popular question with the board, can you describe how deliveries work? What type of vehicles will be coming for deliveries? No tractor trailers?
So deliveries would only come from New Jersey, licensed by the state cannabis cultivators and processors. Typically, they would come in a unmarked car, or all the time they come in an unmarked car. So this could be a sedan, a van. The individuals wouldn't be wearing anything that identifies them as cannabis operators. They would have their credentials on them in the event they needed them in an emergency. Additionally, there'd be a transport manifest that has to be developed prior to them leaving. That transport manifest is managed in Metric. That's a state required seed to sale tracking system. We would receive a copy of that before they come to understand what they're bringing. They would show up. The driver would come in, sign in our visitors log. At that point, the security guard and the inventory manager would proceed to the rear entrance where they would have a security monitor. So they have situational awareness of what's outside them. There, they would let the two individuals that sign into the visitors log with the delivery inside the store. They would proceed to the inventory room. The delivery will be accounted for against the transport manifest and the purchase order. As long as everything's confirmed, they would sign off on it and the product would be stored in our vault. In the event there was a discrepancy, we can work with that delivery team's headquarter office to correct the discrepancy, or we can reject it and send it back.
So nothing larger than a Sprinter van is going to be delivering to this property?
Correct. Most deliveries are only maybe 3 moving boxes at most.
And if you have cannabis product that doesn't get used, you're not throwing that in the trash. You have a specific CRC Cannabis Regulatory Commission way of disposing this?
Correct. We have to
So-
we have to maintain green waste protocols, and in New Jersey, the way we manage that is we send it back to the cultivators or processors. In the event we had to waste something on site, it would have to be in a 50-50 mixture with something such as soil or kitty litter and be mixed and rendered unrecognizable or unusable. Meaning
So I guess
can't take
my
a-
question for you is that any waste generated at this site is going to be of employee lunches, things like that. There's no cannabis waste being generated by this site.
Correct, no cannabis waste, general office waste, which is managed by our third-party cleaning service, so they would handle all of our waste.
I have no further questions for Mr. Costa at this time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gilson. Turn to our professionals this time. For the record, our borough engineer, Rob Costa has joined us. Good evening, Mr. Costa.
Mr. Chairman, everybody, good evening. Just for the record, I don't believe I'm related.
Glad we cleared that up.
But you're probably Portuguese. I'll
Because
give
I'm
you-
sorry, I'm sure tomorrow morning, if I go in the bagel store in Kennecott, they're gonna say now I'm selling marijuana in town. So I just want to put that on the record. No relation. Thank you. I have no questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Barron's.
Sure, just sticking with the operational testimony, you did answer most of my questions. How often do you expect to get deliveries?
Deliveries varies. I could expect maybe 4 a week. We have a larger vault here, so we can maintain more. So it could vary. We can have 2 1 week, 4 the next week, none the following week. It fluctuates. We tend to, by month 4, then we have a routine and we'd have a definitive schedule of how to maintain that based on what we're selling through.
All right, thank you. And what would the maximum number of employees be that you'd have on site at a given time?
I believe for this site, it is 10 to operate this site at a given time.
That's the max. And the borough's conditional use ordinance stipulates a certain hours of operation. Are you guys good with those hours? I mean,
Yes,
you
sir.
have to be, but
Yeah.
you can see that you'll comply, right?
We'll
Okay.
comply, sir.
Got it. I'm just looking at my memo. Bear with me real quick. You mentioned having sort of window coverings. There is a lot of glass on that existing building. So would those coverings be graphic in nature so as to represent signage?
If I may, can I share a rendering with you?
Please.
This will be Exhibit A2. And could you describe it, please?
This is a rendering made by our art designer Margot Fraschisi. She works for Sweet Spot. This shows the current condition of the site for this application, and then it has 2 renderings underneath it to show proposed finish if we were granted this approval and move forward. So what you see here is essentially we do a green paint all the way around, and then the window coverings, they'd have a similar graphic to this. The state limits us on our ability to be creative with it, so we would do it in a way that doesn't make it look like we just threw paper up on the window, but to try to make it look like part of the facade and part of the building.
Right. So just to be clear, I mean, this is obvious, but there are no words, again, focusing on the window coverings. There's no signs. They're covered and they're, maybe some sort of artistic whatever, but they're not signs, I guess is my point.
Correct.
I noted that both your Voorhees facility as well as the existing building on this site are not green. So I guess the question is that a required, it's obviously not part of the brand because you don't have it in Voorhees. So is that something that's necessary for this site? I'm not sure if the board has an opinion either way, but.
I'm very open to hearing the opinion of the board, and we're open to making modifications to satisfy the board.
Okay.
However, Voorhees was version 3 of the art aesthetics, not the operations have remained the same, but we have improved our art aesthetics and create a final brand book, which I'd be more than happy to share with you. That kind of shows how our aesthetics are. And promoting our colors are a priority for us to kind of like give that visual cue to customers. So I know we do want to go with the green. The renderings do not do it justice because the lighting doesn't match, but it is a very soft green. I know this looks in your face, but I would be more than happy to share samples of 2 or 3 color samples that the board would like to review if necessary.
All right, thank you. And then finally, just looking at the bottom rendering, I see 2 sweet spot signs. One I think is facing the front, facing Route 4, and one is facing, we'll call it the side. I think it's the northerly side. Just to be clear, the one facing the side of the lot would require a variance. So again, not sure based on the orientation of this, which is which. I think it's the one toward the right. But again, that looks like it faces the side or north, which technically is not permitted and would require a variance.
Yes, and I apologize for that. We are not seeking a variance. We have no intentions of putting a sign there. We are planning to operate without a variance. So that was just artistic discretion. The artist wanted more, and I didn't have her take that out.
All right, and finally, just since you have it up, I don't think we have sign details. It looks like the sign is less than the maximum 20 square feet that we allow. The ordinance does prohibit, we'll call it imagery that relates to cannabis. You know, you can't have the leaf or anything else that looks like cannabis, but here we have the word dispensary. So in the spirit of the ordinance, I don't know if it addresses this directly, whether or not that word, if you need it, I don't know how the board feels about it, but I think the borough's intent was to sort of be discreet with this. Just a question that I raised. Again, I'm not sure that we actually regulate it, but I just don't know if the board has an issue with it or not. So I'm done with my comments for now. Thank you.
So just to answer that last comment on the sign, we are open to ideas, but one thing we've learned in our 7 years of research is people, when they see the word dispensary, that's what they're looking for. And we've trialed it in 2 different sites, that having the dispensary in our signage, not as a major part of the signage, but somewhere there, helps eliminate someone driving past you or having to do a U-turn. You know, it helps direct them right to your site and mitigates any potential confusion.
If I may,
yeah.
If I may, do you have any locations without the word dispensary in the name or on the signage?
We do.
Okay. Okay, all set, Mr. Burns?
All set, thank you.
Okay. Chief Walker, could I turn to you for any comment, questions?
Sure. So I've met with the operator, Ben Herbst, and I'm sorry, Blake Costa. We've exchanged some emails, but we've yet to have an in-depth discussion. But just in the review of his site plan for the security, as far as cameras and things like that, it looks to be up to speed. They are an established company with businesses, as he said, in the East Coast. Just a couple of questions. On the interior, do you differentiate between the medicinal users and the recreational users?
In a line, that's only with line management. So
Right.
a medical user would have their own cash register. This way
Right.
they can be expedited out. Oh, I see my partner Ben has a comment there.
I
We could
apologize.
swear,
Just want to.
Ben, we need to swear you in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If you could raise your right hand.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record.
Benjamin Herbst, Herbst, 675 Grand Street, Brooklyn, New York. I just want to reiterate that this store will solely be an adult use store. That's the only license that we will have for it, so it won't have medical sales here. We do have a hybrid store in South Jersey, but that is the only license of which we are allowed to do medical sales.
But we do recognize medical patients and their needs, so they will have a separate line. This way they can get the entitled discounts to offset the taxes they would have to pay.
Okay, great. As far as the security regarding, we're discussing manpower. We have yet to get into a little more discussion with that, which at some point we will. I'm sure Mr. Costa and I know that the landlord is regarding traffic control outside, is requiring requesting on his part and requiring on your part, I guess, an officer, at least to start the program off, or the business off. I'm probably going to discuss with you internally there. I'm aware of dispensaries in the area where officers have, where departments have required an officer inside. And my discussion with you is I don't want to make it something so that we're, we're having several officers down there and causing, a large cost item for you or manpower requirements for me, but certainly we want to make sure that the operation is running smoothly, which again, I don't have doubts, but I think that it's a further discussion with Mr. Costa. I don't see any issues with that, ironing out exactly how we're going to fit into that as far as manpower goes. Other than that, I think you're following really what is put in place or has been occurring with these dispensaries. Between the vaults and the camera systems, we use Verkada here in town. I find them to be a reliable company. I would imagine you also have the capability of viewing those cameras on site.
Correct. So we'll have viewing capabilities at reception, and they'll also be strategically placed throughout the building, such as inventory manager's office. Do you use viewing stations with your Verkada?
We can see them at headquarters.
Okay, so yeah, we can access it from anywhere. Myself and the managers, we access it on our phones all the time. And then the staff does have monitors to access the system for viewing only.
Okay, all right. Again, we use the same system, so I'm confident that'll work. Again, other than that, my discussions with Mr. Hurst, and again, I feel just talking through him about Mr. Costa, I think, and our focus of our discussion was as we move along, whether it be traffic or parking issues or the building itself, they've more than assured me that look, they want to make it work, and if it doesn't work, then certainly we're going to be involved. I know the landlord personally. He's a dot the I and cross the T type of individual, so he's not going to stand for anything to affect his other business owners down there. So I feel that they're a good company, and moving forward we should be we'll be all right.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Questions from the board for the applicant? We'll just go around quickly. Mr. Cray, I'll start with you.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Costa, just a couple of questions. You had mentioned it on the drawing. You note what you're calling a man trap at the customer entrance. I guess first question is related to that. There's no automatic fire alarm or sprinkler system or any sort of fire suppression system in those buildings, correct?
There will be a fire alarm, but not fire suppression.
There'll be a fire alarm. So and that fire alarm will have a relay output to release those doors in a fire event?
Correct.
Okay.
So do you mind if I just explain the way the man trap doors work?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't impede egress. The intent of the man trap doors are to control ingress. So the man trap relay itself has multiple outputs, integrates into, it basically interrupts the connection between the door latch and the card reader sending the signal. So what we can do is we can configure in different ways. We could keep the entry door shut and locked and not be able to be unlocked from the reception area while the exterior door is open. So we call it a man trap. We have multiple ways to operate it, and it really depends on the operations and how they typically we go the highest level of security, and then we'll work our way back as we get to know the area.
But are all the doors free egress? Is it like an electrified mortise lock, or I mean?
They'll all be in compliance with fire code, fire and life safety code, and allow for free egress.
Okay. The other thing I know in the New Jersey code, they talk about the security system needing approval by the commission prior to the license being issued. So they've already reviewed your security program and blessed it when they prior to giving the issuing license.
They will do that once we receive the blessing from this board and the sign off, then we'll go for it, because right now we have the conditional. Then we'll go for our final application, and that's where they'll review that and they'll
Right.
inspect it.
Okay, and I know in the code, they note, like exterior lighting has to be sufficient to deter nuisance criminal activity and to support the video surveillance system. Do you plan on doing anything with lighting to meet that standard?
Yep, so lighting will be adjusted to meet the standard, but what we typically do is try to maintain current lighting. This site does have parking lot pole lighting.
Mhm.
And if we were to replace any of the pack lighting on the building itself, we'd replace in kind with dark sky compliant fixtures.
Okay, so is that gonna be like infrared cameras, or is it wide dynamic range cameras or something like that?
They're infrared cameras, yes.
Okay. So if it, I mean, I guess that's the question, if there's a conflict between the standard that the commission wants for security lighting versus what our code looks for as far as kind of good neighborliness, you can address that with the camera technology.
Correct. And based on my experience with this commission and our operations in New Jersey, I do not see them having a significant alterations to the site for lighting.
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cray. Mr. Pfeffer.
Thank you. Good evening. Yeah, Mr. Costa, first, let me just start off thanking you for your service to the country. Very impressive record. I also just want to say for the record, I don't have a problem with the word dispensary. So I hope that's not controversial, but I don't think dispensary is weighs one way or another on the issues that we're concerned about in this type of business. I'm curious, Mr. Costa, if there are similar properties owned by you. Are the other property? Well, let me start off this way. How many properties does your business own in New Jersey and elsewhere in the country? What's the total?
We do not own any properties as a business. We're still a relatively young company at 7 years, so our capital is strictly focused on growing our operations.
Okay, and how many retail stores or dispensaries do you have?
5.
And all in New Jersey?
We have one in New Jersey, one in Connecticut, a second in Connecticut opening next month. We have one in Vermont opening next month. We have one in Rhode Island, one in Maine, and then one in Maryland. But we have 5 of those are operational.
Okay, and I assume these are fairly recently open.
For the most part, yes. Our earliest one is Maryland, which dates back to 2018, or yes, 2018.
Okay. In any of these operations, any of these locations, do you sublet to other tenants?
No.
All right. Is there any plan to sublet any portion of the space at this location?
No, sir. We'll be operating the whole, we have plans to take on the whole space, and every corner is being used for something, whether it's an operational related or break room or office.
Okay. Have any of the other locations experienced any type of either criminal issues, crime issues, or any type of community objection to the operation of the business?
We had one break-in recently this year in a Rhode Island store. The Verkada system did its job. The individuals were career criminals. They did they're currently in court right now because we were able to catch them. They broke into about 6 local businesses in the town. We were on that list. They shut off our generator. They came up, was able to cut through the 3M glass. The glass break went off right away. The alarm went off. I got woken up at 2 a.m. The police got dispatched. They ran as soon as the alarm went off. So they went inside, realized we had nothing on the floor, ran as soon as possible. The police didn't catch them right away, but we were able to gather enough data through the Verkada system, thanks to our battery backup, to assist the state police in catch and apprehending them.
Okay, any other significant incidents like that in any of your locations? Aside from that?
No, no significant, that's the most significant incident we've ever had.
Okay. And how do you advertise your business? How do you get your customers?
So a lot of it's word of mouth. Really it's Google reviews, like putting in the word dispensary and seeing our store pop up. So we promote through reviews. There's a lot of advertisement restrictions in cannabis and in the regulations. So a lot of it, we really can't do much on social media. We'll do pop-up events at age appropriate events. So we're not going to go to a youth soccer game to put a tent up, but maybe at a bar or something, we do a pop-up event or a brewery. And those are really our only ways we can advertise. We're really restricted on the way we can communicate with the customers. So social media is not that big right now in cannabis for getting the broader range, because our average customer is going to be in their 40s and 50s. We're not bringing in the 21-year-old college kid who's, or the stoner. We're really bringing in the soccer mom who wants to put down the glass of wine at night and go to a joint because it's going to make her feel better and she's not going to have the hangover. She'll be more engaged with her family. So that's who we're targeting. Those individuals typically are looking for us. They're looking for that alternative. They're looking to get introduced and they're researching us. And it is one of those things, if you build it, they will come.
Okay, so you're not giving out flyers at the high school, that kind of thing.
No, we don't have any sign spinners. I'm not going to be wearing a chicken suit out front trying to get people to come in. I can assure you on that.
And Mr. Pfeffer, this is all heavily regulated by the Cannabis Control Commission, and there's a lot of restrictions on advertisement that we obviously will be abiding with as a condition of our state license on top of the local approval.
Okay, thank you. Those were my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Pfeffer. Ms. Boland.
I don't have any questions regarding security. I'll wait for the engineer for parking.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kanigo.
Thank you. And thank you, sir, for this presentation. It's very enlightening. I would imagine that there's a limit of people that are allowed inside the retail portion of the store.
Yeah, so we'll have a capacity by code. That's really what drives is the capacity by code. The way the store is laid out is it's open and it can support a higher volume safely. So I would just say it's based off local code.
Okay. The reason I ask that is because I would imagine there's also times of the year where you have more people coming to your stores, maybe before Thanksgiving, before Christmas, before parties, Halloween, etc. When you have rushes on these stores, will you be prepared to have lines outside? Is that something that's been considered? I've seen, and again, in other local stores, when you drive by, you see that there's like lines of people literally outside the store and around the store and down the block almost. And given the location here, Route 4, and there's nowhere for those people to really flow. So that's what I'm wondering.
So our goal is not to have that line outside. One thing I pride our team on is our ability to maximize efficiencies in our operations, which is why we separate fulfillment from retail order placing. Our average ticket time is 4 minutes. As we promote online ordering, we can draw up to 40% transactions through online. And when people do use online, we have a 2-minute transaction time. So in the event we would prepare, let's say 420, that's the biggest event in cannabis every year. You do your most transactions, and that's what you build your operations around. So how do we sustain that volume of transactions in one day? And that's what we build everything around. So as our team got together and built the layout, which allows, as you'll see, for adequate line queuing, they thought about 420 in this area, and they looked at our pro forma. We're able to back into how many transactions we would expect on 420, and we're confident that we'd be able to support it inside the store. Now, I can't predict the future. In the event we had a line going outside the store, that's where our security guard would come in play. We would have stanchions. We always have stanchions we use inside for line management. Those could be pulled outside, and we can utilize the stanchions with sign holders to manage an outside queue and to ensure it doesn't obstruct traffic or create a safety hazard.
All right, I would give this some further consideration just because I don't know if you're from this area or not. It doesn't sound like you might be, but Route 4, the holidays, you know, we've got malls. It's a pipeline from the malls to New York City. You're going to have a lot of traffic your way. So I foresee you guys being very successful, but it's going to come with some of these problems. So maybe just give it a thought. As for the dispensary, I actually think that it should be on there. It should tell people it's legal in the state. It's being legal everywhere. Just about everybody you know tries it, an edible, this, that, and the other. I think people know what it is. And I think with a name like Sweet Spot, you know, if it doesn't say dispensary, maybe after the mall I pull over for ice cream because that's what I'm thinking it is. If it tells me dispensary, I'm saying, no, that's not for me and the kids to stop in. No, that's not that kind of Sweet Spot. So I'm okay with dispensary. I think you should have it on it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Kenigo. Mr. Bustede.
I don't have any additional questions at this time.
Okay, Councilman?
Thank you. I just have one question. Blake, you were explaining before, I saw on the architectural plans, there's a live bud bar. Can you maybe explain what that is?
Yeah, so a live bud bar is, remember in the video when I paused the video and I said this is where the only cannabis product would be displayed? And it would be behind a locked glass and customers would never handle it. That's a live bud bar. Live flower, the actual cannabis, so please stop me if I'm going too deep, but just a quick educational. The consumption methods are vaporize or are live flower, which is a live bud that you typically see. That makes up 60% of your sales. About 30% of your sales are through, about 10% are through vaporizers, 10% through edibles, and then the remainder is shared through pre-rolls. So for us, with majority of the customers buying that live flower, they want to see it because they make their purchasing decisions based off density, color, and other profiles such as the size of the nugs, the quantity of nugs within that container. So that's why we have the live bud bar, and that would be behind that secured lock glass that no one would be able to access and would only be opened 30 minutes before the store opens for the staff to pull out the bud, and then 30 minutes after opening for the staff to return the bud to the vault. I know I went down a rabbit hole, but does that answer your question, Councilman?
Yes, it does. Thank you. And then I just, Chairman, I have a question about the traffic circulation plan, but if there's going to be information provided to us separately later on that.
Yeah, we're going to have testimony on that later on. So
thank you.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Gibbons.
Thank you, sir. So I know it was brought up earlier that you haven't had any major issues, but how often on general are there minor issues, or how often typically do your security guards have to actually, I don't want to be, to do their job, to intervene or are there smaller problems at the facilities that you've had?
Not really. I would say a security guard intervention for 5 sites would be maybe once a year. And that's with, I think last year we did close to 200,000 transactions. So that's about 200,000 people throughout the East Coast, not at one site, that are coming in and out. And we've had maybe 2 incidents, and usually it was a customer that forgot their license and we couldn't let them in and they were a little upset and the guard had to just, gently escort them out. But other than that, nothing too major.
Okay. And just to clarify, I know you talked about the doors and all before, but to enter to physically the first time walk into the building, are you being buzzed in, or are you just walking in on your own to that reception area?
To start, you'd be buzzed in, and then as operations progress, we can make the decision to unlock that door, but you'll be buzzed in by the receptionist, and then to go from reception to the retail floor, you'll be buzzed in again.
Okay. And then there's a camera. I assume that the reception is able to see that person at the front door.
Correct. There'll be not only a dome camera up above, but we also use a intercom system that has a fisheye view as well. So they could see them from the front and then they can see up above.
Okay, and that's a physical monitor that reception has.
Correct. That's a dedicated monitor that will always show the security cameras that are important to their operations. So that's the outside views, some of the retail views. So they have a 360 view of their surroundings through the walls through that monitor.
Okay. And when you open these facilities, I know, you open a Chick-fil-A around here, and park and, the highway stop.
Yeah.
How busy do you foresee opening this? And as was mentioned before, this is a very popular highway. How busy do you foresee to start? And I assume since Chief Walker addressed this already, that you're already talking to him about getting started. So how busy are we when we get started with this?
So I used to tell my investors that we're going to be busy day one, and I don't do that anymore because that's not the case anymore. We typically see a 3 to 4 month ramp up, and that's like getting cash flow positive and starting to get at least closer to your plateau for your customer base. However, as we discussed for this site, because it may have a bigger demand because of the route we're on, if we do have a large one, as I said, we're always able to support that largest day of operation. That's 420. So we can staff to support that. And as we open, we'll work with the police department to ensure we have appropriate traffic control measures in place and support from their traffic department to mitigate any potential impacts during that initial opening. I think my partner Ben has some additional input.
Yeah, and I just want to also reiterate, as Chief Walker mentioned, for at least the first 6 months of operation, we are going to have them on off-duty police officers on site if we can work a deal out with them or somebody to their approval. That will not only help with any potential issues, but just traffic flow, parking, and those types of things to kind of get ahead of any potential issue that may arise. So, and we've been obviously in communications with Chief Walker pretty thoroughly.
Okay. Yeah, I trust obviously Chief Walker will handle that on his end. Just want to make sure that we're covered for that start, because like I said, you open a Chick-fil-A or something around here and people go nuts. And I'm sure hopefully you'll have the same response. I'm not sure this is a question for you, but I assume that the person who will be running this on site is someone that has worked in your other stores before or is in this industry, or
Yes, our general manager will come from the industry. Our VP of retail lives in Northern Jersey, and our director of retail, who covers the Jersey region, also lives in New Jersey. So they'll be there to support. We usually hire the general manager from the industry. That helps us, bring in other individuals, and then usually assistant managers can come from outside the industry.
Okay. And then just one more question. I know this came up when this originally was brought to the borough as allowing a dispensary. There won't be any merchandise about this facility sold on site or anywhere really, or like t-shirts, hats, kinds of things?
We'll have t-shirts and hats. Those are common things. Nothing that's like overt, like, hey, stoner time. It's all just sweet spots, subtle, aesthetically pleasing stuff.
Okay. Because my understanding was I thought it might have been an issue with the town. I'm not sure if Councilman can speak to that or anyone else. I thought there was a stipulation with that there wouldn't be merchandise sold.
There was only certain, yeah, Ryan, you're right. There was discussion about that. It was only certain types of merchandise though, and it doesn't, what Blake described is not excluded.
So the borough would allow a sweet spot t-shirt, hat, whatever stuff like that might be.
The concern was regarding merchandise that might appeal to minors.
Yep. Yeah, and that's why I'm asking. I wouldn't want
so
my
I
kid
mean-
coming home with a sweet spot t-shirt.
Yeah, no, we're not gonna have like I'm not gonna sell a kid's 3T sweet spot t-shirt and a diaper bag or a kid's lunchbox. Everything will just be like adult sizes, very subtle. I'm trying to see if I have anything laying around, but
It's fine. I obviously I misunderstood, what was approved by the borough. But certainly, yeah, we just wouldn't want anything, I wouldn't want my 12-year-old coming home with a sweet spot shirt.
Yeah.
That's really my concern. You know, my main concerns with this whole thing are just that it's safety, and it's not gonna be getting in the hands of our kids. You know, is really my concerns. But I think that's it. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Mr. Merman.
Couple of quick questions. Blake, somebody mentioned that the hours were normal borough hours. Can I assume that means 10 a.m. to 10 p.m.?
Correct.
Okay. Now, I guess the other question is, well, let me just make a statement first. I think we've established that part of this site is in the borough of Hackensack, let's say. Are you folks open on Sunday, or are you closed on Sunday?
We'll be open on Sunday.
So you are going to be open on Sunday. All right. I guess there's no Blue Wars in Hackensack, is that it?
Well, I'll step in on this. We're not conducting any operations in Hackensack, and I think you're thinking of Paramus has a separate blue law.
Well,
Hackensack does not.
Well, part of the property, I believe, wasn't that testified to be in Hackensack. That's why I led the question.
Yeah,
All
our
right.
engineer can describe that, but it's a piece of vacant land behind the other buildings. Our operations are entirely in the borough of River Edge.
Okay, so you are open on Sundays. Okay, I have for you, I have a clarification, or I'd like to get something on the record. We have three basic sets of documents for this application. One being the traffic report, the other being the fit out of dispensary, and the other being Neglia drawings. I would like to get your agreement that anything related to site work will only be shown or on Neglia drawings, Neglia site drawings, and they will prevail. Because there's some information shown on the dispensary drawings. I believe that was site related, commented by Mr. Costa's office. So if we can agree that all site related items are solely going to be on the Neglia drawings, that would be great. I don't want to see any cross confusion.
We'll be sure
That's
that they're on the
fine.
Neglia drawings, and we'll ensure that prior to that Neglia drawings are reviewing the architectural plans to make sure they encompass everything.
Okay, all right, good. Because otherwise, all right, there was some confusion before, and I think Costas pointed it out. My main comments are related to the site circulation, the site lighting, site movement, site exits, and so forth. You do plan to have site lighting, is that correct, or should I save that for the Neglia presentation?
Well, I can speak to the site lighting. The rest of your questions based on the subjects you identified, I would prefer if we went to Neglia for that.
Right.
Site lighting, the site currently does have sufficient lighting. As I mentioned earlier, we would evaluate that at night, and just to ensure in the event we had to adjust any lighting or replace any fixtures, it'd be in kind. In the event we did have to add a fixture, it'd be in compliance with local code and ordinances, such as being dark sky compliant and whatever any other requirements are in the code.
And Mr. Merman, if it would make you feel better, I don't know if you guys do it as a matter of course, but we'd be fine with the 6-month look back once we've been operational for 6 months for your engineer to come out and reevaluate the lighting.
I think we're gonna save that discussion to Neglia representative, okay? And as far as signage is concerned, I believe that the board probably should have a discussion on signage, site signage, but I would also like to see your site signage details. on an Neglia drawing for size, location, and so forth. And judge them in accordance with the borough standard.
That's no problem. We're gonna, all our signage, as we said, we're seeking no variances. All our construction is gonna be done within the standards of the borough and International Building Code. We'll meet all those requirements. We have no variances we're gonna request.
You will show that on a Neglia drawing, and
We will, yes.
we'll evaluate it from that. What else did I have? I think the board itself needs a discussion on signage. I was led to believe from some of the original presentations made that it could be very discreet. And in fact, I believe there was an example given on Paramus where it was said that there were operational dispensaries in Paramus, and you wouldn't even know they were there. I'm a discreet person. I want to see it visually discreet, and I think the board itself should consider that as an item.
And I would just like to appeal to the board. Although we do operate, we are a business. We don't come from money. We scratch to get to where we are. As I alluded to earlier, we have very restricted marketing regulations. And as I testified, we will not be openly marketing on billboards or handing out flyers. Therefore, our only marketing opportunity is that one sign. This is legal. We are following the laws. We aren't requesting any variances. I just respectfully request that the board consider our signage as shown. And that's it. We're not trying to do any neon fancy backlit, just a simple signage so people can see it's Sweet Spot Dispensary, because that's all we have as a business.
I understand. I hear you. Okay. Mr. Chairman.
Murray.
Mr. Chairman, can we enter in our agenda a full board discussion on site signage? I believe that we have to agree one way or the other as a body. So somehow can we carry that later on? I know we have other things to do, especially regarding site circulation and site lighting and all of that. But I'm asking if it would be possible to
We're talking about the word dispensary. Is that what the issue is?
I want it to be totally discreet, like it was held to us when on the initial presentation. I don't want to see dispensary there. No, I'm correct. Yes.
Ms. Steinle.
There's no issues with all the liquor stores in town, though, right? With the Miller Lite signs and the Tito's tequila, that's all right for the kids to see.
Well, yeah,
but a dispensary sign on Route 4, that's going to be a problem.
Well, I think
like which kids are riding their bikes on Route 4 that we're worried about?
I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the truck.
Let's hold that topic for later conversation.
That's what I'm saying.
Points are, I understand both of your points. Ms. Steinle, I think, was looking to.
As far as I'm concerned, the rest of my major items relate to the site, and I'll hold it for the appropriate time.
Okay.
I'll hold it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Steinle. I think you were looking to make a statement.
I just wanted to clarify that the applicant has agreed to comply with the borough code signage requirements, and they're only asking for the one sign. But I think that the engineer might bring it up, or the architect, the sign detail later on. So that can be brought up later.
We will provide a full signage detailed plan, but just so everybody is aware, there is signage ordinance on the original ordinance that you guys did. It allows for 2 signs, and it has signage restrictions on size, and we will make sure that we are compliant for that. So nothing that we are doing is outside of what you've already made as an ordinance, and we are here to comply with that.
And this would be part of the building permit submission package. So this would be reviewed and approved before we can even start work on it.
Okay. understand your points. I think what would help the board is if we see your signage package actually on the site plan, so we have a full picture of what it is you're intending to do there. I think that's the driving point for the moment.
No problem.
One question I have for you, just in terms of, I think during your testimony, you had mentioned or alluded to the possibility of a natural gas generator being brought on site for backup power. Is that a certainty, or is that something you're thinking about? Or if it is a certainty, where are you thinking of locating it vis-a-vis the building?
Typically, they're located on the roof. This structure is able to support packaged rooftop units for our HVAC system.
Okay.
So typically, when possible, they're located on the roof.
Okay. All right. So not on the surface level then. You're taking it up.
Correct.
Up.
And
Okay.
for security reasons, we like it to be up high.
Okay. Understood. Any further questions from the board for the applicant?
Just, Mr. Chairman, just a couple of things, going back to the generator. So right now, you're not showing a generator, correct? Unless I just tried to scroll through the plans again.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I said I just scrolled through the plans as I'm sitting here. You're not proposing a generator at this point, are you? Unless we missed it. Unless I missed it, quite frankly.
Yeah, I was
I'm
looking for it on the
looking
site plan. I didn't see it. That's why I was asking.
I'm just looking through right now. Bear with me for a sec. Yeah, so we have the emergency panel. So if you reference E 4.0, let me just scroll in on this detail.
Hang on one second.
So if you look on E 4.0 in the key notes, note 5, here, I can share my screen so the board can see. So up here, key notes, note 5, provide new feed to rooftop generator as indicated on feeder schedule. So we have a feeder schedule. The rooftop generator site placement needs to be, they need to get access to the roof and they'll determine that. But that is on the plans and it calls panel E right here. This is our emergency panel with.
No, I
supply
get,
from-
maybe you're missing the point. That's all well and good, but if you're gonna put a generator on the roof, what is it? How big is it? Is it gonna be screened?
It's a 7K. It's enclosed in a soundproof box, and then we'll present 7 kW soundproof box, and it'll be I believe this roof is screened, so it'd be screened just as the HVAC units are.
And can you show the screening you're talking about for the board?
1 second. I'm gonna have to pull a current existing image, if you could bear with me.
Sure.
So I'm gonna share my screen. So these are the two rooftop HVAC units right here. Our generator would be about less than half the size of this in height. So this is a current view from the street where you can only see the top portion of the rooftop unit. Our generator would sit lower than that.
And I'm just gonna have to mark this as exhibit A3, so if you could
This
take a
was
screenshot or something and just email,
Okay.
have Mr. Gilson email it to me, that'll be part of the record.
Will do. Do you need for the record, do you need me to describe it or no?
Yeah, that would be great, just a Google
Okay.
Street View.
This is Google Street View. I entered in 75 Route 4 for River Edge, New Jersey while on this call. This is what populated for the first Google Street View.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question, sir?
I gotta be honest with you, it's not a question of answering the question. The question is, if you're gonna have a generator on top, you need to show it on a plan and you need to show the screening. I mean, this is a Google Earth or Google Maps photo. I don't think that suffice, but again, it's up to the board.
Okay,
and
I have
then
no
what-
problem creating a detail for an elevation to show the generator placement. I believe it's on the Neglia plans. I could be wrong. And then we can ensure that I can send someone up there and get the exact placement and they can detail that on the plan.
Yeah, the Neglia plans do not show any sort of elevation.
Right, again, unless I missed it.
Yeah, they're.
No, we can get, I typically haven't done elevations for generators in the past, but I can 100% get that provided for you.
Yeah, I think that would make sense to sort of hand in
Easily.
hand with the signage package that to show where that's going to go on the building. I think if you show that with an elevation where your signage is and in relation where the generator would. if it's-
And again, I know we share the same last name, but maybe at the last meeting or meeting before, there was a restaurant that came into town. And this board questioned a lot on signage. So I think, and again, I'll certainly refer to Mr. Barons, who's the planner in town. But I think you need to show I know you said that you're gonna comply to whatever the ordinance says. But I think you need to show that and make sure that the dimensions and stuff match. And then one other question I have, Mr. Chairman, and this is it for tonight. Because I pick up on certain things. When you said we're a small business and we're just scratching by to get by. I'm not sure what that meant, but prior to that, you said you do about 2,000 or 200,000 out of 5 stores?
We do, and it typically costs $1 million to build out a store. As I said, we built out 4 stores this year.
I understand.
Can't get traditional loans from the bank. We don't have access to those. My partners and I, none of us come from money. Most of us come from blue collar families. So although it does, we take care of the business, like we never miss a payroll, we never miss a rent, we operate good, but to continue to grow our businesses in this climate is very difficult because you can't go out and get the debt. So we have to fund it through operational cash flow.
So you say you can't go out and get the debt. And I understand because supposedly it's federally, it's not allowed, it's not approved, correct?
And we have the debt, like we're well funded. When I'm saying we're scratching by, we're very well funded. We've taken care of that, but that wasn't always the case. Like we worked to get to where we were and just even get our funding, what we had to put on the line. And my partner, Ben, can provide more background for that.
Yeah, so Mr. Costa, just so you're
Well,
understanding.
if you can hang on with just 1 second though, like I said, I trip on a lot of things. The only thing you testified, you said something, and you're scratching by. That's what you said. But if that's not the case, and I'm not sure why you said that. I'm not sure if the board asked you something, but I just heard it and it piqued my interest. That's all.
Well, I guess I would like to refer back to that testimony to understand the context in which I said it too. But I mean, this is a tough industry. I mean, there's no one that just gets by easily. Everyone's scratching by. So I don't know if you can elaborate on what that makes you think, if you think we're not funded and you'd like to see proof of funds.
None of the above. I didn't say it, sir. You did. All I'm saying is I'm not sure what the question was, but you said you're just scratching by.
I think what Mr.
That was
Costa was saying was about how we come from humble beginnings and that we've had to get into this business from the ground up and get this stuff going. When he said 200,000, that was transactions, not dollar amount. And obviously it's a significantly more dollar amount than the amount of transactions that we're doing. And, we've done substantial business over the last 7 years of operations, and that won't play an effect on moving forward with this facility.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Costa, let me ask you one question, just to go back to the generator for a second. Do we have any other buildings in the borough with backup generators on the roof? To your knowledge?
Which this Mr. Costa or that?
Sorry,
Mr.
Rob, our engineer, Rob.
Are
you aware of any other commercial buildings in the borough that?
None of you can certainly put them on a roof, no question. The question becomes structurally, you might have to put some dunnage on the roof in order to support the weight. But again, if I heard it correctly, it's a 7 kW, which is a small generator. It's again, some of the generators we have, 125, 65. We might even have a 200 kVA, 225 kVA. So 7 is they're small. They're lightweight. I don't know what the dimensions are, you know, or what brand it is, but it's nothing. It's not unreasonable to put it up there.
Okay. Got it. All right, thanks.
Mr. Chairman, given the time constraints that you laid out at the beginning, I don't see us finishing, so it's something we could certainly clean up before the next hearing.
That's fine. I think, because I think we're gonna have there'll be other comments we'll have to tick through. So that's that being one of them. So Mr. Pfeffer, I think you were trying to say something. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. No, I was, if we were staying on the financial question, I was gonna try to provide some helpful context for that. But if we've moved on, then that's fine too. I don't want to dwell on it.
Yeah, I think we can move on from that.
Okay.
Okay. Any further comments from the board? Or no?
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, are we gonna hear from the mayor?
Is the mayor on?
Mayor is not on.
I don't think he's on.
Okay.
I got people jumping around the screen. I'm trying to keep track of everybody, but I didn't see
He's-
the mayor.
he's
If
out
I
of-
missed him, I
he's out.
apologize.
He gave no prior notice. He's out of town.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman. All right. Mr. Gilson?
Yes, my next witness was Mr. John Dunley, our civil engineer from Negley Engineering.
Okay. Ms. Steinle, when you're ready?
If you please raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record.
Sure. My name is John Dunley. That's John. And Dunley spelled D as in David, Unlea. I am from Neglia Group. My business address being 34 Park Avenue, Lyndhurst, New Jersey, 07071.
And Mr. Dunley, could you please give the board the benefit of your professional experience?
Yes, absolutely. So I received my Bachelor of Science degree in civil engineering from the University of Massachusetts in Amherst in 2015. I'm a member of the American Society of Civil Engineers as well as the New Jersey Society of Municipal Engineers. Overall, I have 9 years of experience working as a civil engineer in the state of New Jersey, and I've been licensed since the year 2021. Overall, my experience includes extensive land development design, both in private and public spaces. I've worked on a number of designs for residential and commercial land development projects in the private sector, as well as public infrastructure and facility design. This includes recreational sports facility designs, roadways, parking lots, etc. And overall, that would include site layout design, grading design, stormwater management, utility design, and what have you. So I provided testimony before many boards in the state of New Jersey. This includes boards in Bergen County, Essex County, Hudson County, and Passaic County. To the extent of my testimony tonight is related to the overall site layout. I do have the pleasure tonight of appearing before this board for the first time, so I'm certainly excited about that. And I should just mention, in addition to some of the experience I mentioned, the borough engineer in Park Ridge, as well as the zoning and planning board engineer for the borough of Park Ridge. I'm also the planning board and the zoning board engineer for the borough of Paramus and Woodland Park. Also the land use board engineer in Dumont. And I'm also the water and sewer engineer in Kinnelon, which is in Morris County.
Any questions from the board as to Mr. Dunley's qualifications? Okay, Mr. Gilson?
Thank you. Mr. Dunley, could you please describe your scope of engagement for this project?
So the scope of my engagement with respect to this project was looking at the site, evaluating existing conditions, and coming up with a plan with respect to striping to provide a more efficient layout.
Can you please describe the existing conditions on the site as they are today?
Yes, and Matt, if I can, I'm going to share my screen. I'd like to show an aerial exhibit to the board.
Sure. And is this a rendering that we'll need to mark as an exhibit?
Yes, this will be an exhibit.
Okay, so we'll mark this as A4. And if you could just describe the exhibit, who prepared it, and the date.
So yes, this is an exhibit. It's entitled Aerial Map. It shows the overall site. It shows specifically the site, which is the subject of this application. I know there's a question tonight with respect to some property located in Hackensack. that would be areas, this would be this area located here, with the excuse me, this area located here, with the municipal boundary crossing through here. And this exhibit is dated July 2024 and it was prepared by my office.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Matt, if I may, I'm just going to quickly walk through the overall site, existing site conditions. So the site in question tonight is identified as block 1415, lot 1.01, within the borough of River Edge. And in addition, there's a stem identified as block 580, lot 1 within the city of Hackensack, as we mentioned earlier. Overall,
John, just to confirm before we start, and there's no improvements being proposed in the city of Hackensack.
That's correct. Correct. I'll emphasize again, the overall, the entirety of the area associated with this application is entirely within the borough of River Edge. So the site is located within the commercial office C2 zoning district, as well as the cannabis overlay zone. The property is 270,916 square feet in size, or 6.22 acres. And this includes the stem located within the city of Hackensack, which again, I emphasize is located here. And it is also illustrated on the boundary survey, which was submitted as part of this application. So again, I'm presenting here the aerial exhibit. So as you can see, the site is fronted by Route 4 to the north, South Lake Drive to the south, and Main Street to the east. The properties to the south are primarily residential in nature, while the property to the north and west is a commercial property. Again, that commercial property being located along Route 4. So diving more into the site itself, there are 3 existing commercial buildings, with the largest building being located in the middle. And this building is an 18,990 square foot, 1-story Ethan Allen furniture store. And and the building to the west is an 8,500 square foot, 1-story Regency Memory Care Club. So the third building, which we'll mention here tonight, located here along the easterly portion of the site, is a 4,420 square foot building containing existing office space, which is currently being used, as was mentioned earlier, by the property owner. But generally speaking, it's underoccupied, and I would consider the additional space of that building to be vacant, with the exception of the office space, as I mentioned earlier. So the site contains existing asphalt parking areas surrounding all 3 buildings, for a total of 117 existing parking spaces. And the southerly portion of the site contains a heavily vegetated area, again located along South Lake Drive. And traversing through that vegetated area is Coles Brook. So overall, I mentioned this heavily vegetated area because I think it provides a good screen between this site, which is a commercial site, and the residential site just to the south. The residential property is just to the south of this property. Matt,
Describe what, if any, improvements are being made by the applicant?
Yes. So Matt, I'd like to present another plan here. So, and I just want to clarify with respect to this plan, we submitted plans to the board. Those are dated May 16, 2024. After receiving the letter from Mr. Costa's office dated July 18, 2024, we did make some changes to the plans, and I would respectfully submit this plan here, which is dated July 23rd, 2024, as an exhibit for presentation here tonight.
That'll be marked as Exhibit A5. It was prepared by your office,
This was prepared by my office, prepared by me.
and it's labeled as signage plan,
Yeah, so this is, we're gonna call it the site plan.
site plan.
I'll
Okay.
clean it up. Yep.
Is it just one sheet or are there multiple?
It'll just be one sheet for the purpose of this exhibit, yes.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you. So again, just to diving further into the application, across this application is essentially to construct interior modifications to the existing 1-story building located on the easterly section of the site. Again, it's an unoccupied building with existing office use and some vacant space toward the front. The office space is located toward the rear of the building. So again, heading toward the north, it kind of splits right along here. So overall, there's very little site work proposed, and there will be no building addition. So again, very little site work, and then no building addition. There'll be no changes to any of the existing setbacks and to the bulk requirements. So all the existing setbacks, impervious coverage and what have you will remain the same and remain as it does today. So the extent of site work proposed is related to restriping areas of the parking lot to ensure that adequate drive aisles are provided while providing bollard signage to assign parking spaces associated with cannabis dispensary. So while our project traffic engineer will dive more into some of the parking requirements, we would just note that under proposed conditions, the site will contain 116 parking spaces with 23 spaces designated to the dispensary. And that includes one ADA accessible parking space located in the front of the building. So overall, relative to the cannabis area and to the cannabis portion of the building, we're actually slightly overparked. So just to provide some clarity with respect to some of the changes that are being made to existing striping, as well as to some of the changes that have been made relative to what was previously submitted to the board, I would just note that some of the spaces along the front portion of the site have been modified such that they are 45 degrees relative to the building and to the drive aisle. And the reason we did this was to ensure that there was adequate space for vehicles to back out of those spaces and continue to traverse through the site. Under existing conditions, there is actually 90-degree parking spaces with less than a 24-foot drive aisle, which is not generally recommended. So by turning the parking spaces such that they're 45 degrees, you achieve the required aisle width for those spaces. And I believe the borough code relative to 45-degree parking spaces is 13 feet. We have an excess of 13 feet. So moving on to some of the additional changes, we would note that the parking spaces which are labeled as 21, 22, and 23, we're obviously going to shift them over a little bit to make sure that we're providing a 24-foot drive aisle between the parking spaces associated with the Ethan Allen space, and these parking spaces under existing conditions, there is less than a 24-foot drive aisle there, which again does not comply with the recommended drive aisle width for 90-degree parking. And this is for 90-degree parking spaces, and that's an issue with respect to the Ethan Allen space as it relates to the parking spaces associated with the rear of our building. Continuing along that theme, we are proposing to eliminate a parking space here along this would be the westerly side of the building. So we're proposing to eliminate that parking space because again, it creates a conflict with a 24-foot drive aisle as it relates to the Ethan Allen parking space here. So by removing that space, we are providing, it says 21 feet here. The 21 feet is relative to this parking space to here. But again, that's a 60-degree parking space, more than enough room for a vehicle to traverse and back out of this location. Moving on to another change. This is a change that's actually been made as it relates to the previous submission to the board here tonight. We did eliminate a parking spot along the front of the building. And the reason we did that was at the suggestion of the board engineer, which we thought was a good one, was to make sure that we had adequate access and safe access to the front doorway there. So we did make that change in accordance with the board engineer's letter. So lastly, I do want to mention, as it relates to the overall site layout, what was previously submitted to the board, we were showing a trash enclosure at what is now labeled as parking spot 13. That trash enclosure has since been eliminated. It's been eliminated from the site overall, as all trash associated with this building will be handled internal to the building. And that's just due to the nature of the operations and the intent for them to have their cleaning services remove trash at the end of the day. So while we initially illustrated the trash enclosure, it's since been removed. And in doing so, we also eliminate the need for any NJDEP permitting. Matt, this is another revised plan I'd like to present to the board tonight. So this is Traffic Circulation Plan 3, and it is dated July 23rd, 2024, prepared by my office. I don't know what exhibit.
All right, this will be exhibit A6 and traffic circulation. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just
Can we
want
just clarify something before you go any further? I'm sorry to interrupt. Is
Yep.
your north arrow correct?
it has to go the other way. I apologize. Yes.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, no, you got. Yeah.
I needed to get straight on that because
Yeah,
all
no.
your east west.
Yeah.
So your north arrow's wrong, right?
It's actually the exact opposite.
Okay, thank you.
My apologies for that confusion. So relative to that, what we're showing here is, based upon some feedback from the chief of police, my understanding is that all egress from the site shall happen at the exit closest to the building. So what we did is we prepared an additional traffic circulation exhibit as compared to what was previously submitted, showing a Sprinter van, which, as was testified to earlier, would be the means of deliveries to the site, where the Sprinter van would enter through the center aisle, through the center access driveway, traverse through the center portion of the site, make its way through the site, come around, and then go out through that exit closest to the building. So again, we're presenting this exhibit just to kind of demonstrate to this board that we are listening to the police department as it relates to traffic circulation, and we're certainly willing to make that modification and ensure that vehicles egressing the site are egressing through that particular driveway. And then to that same nature, I would just add this additional traffic circulation plan as an exhibit here. This would be Exhibit A7. This is Traffic Circulation Plan 4, again dated July 23rd, 2024, prepared by my office.
Thank you.
And not to be too repetitive, just to kind of continue along the theme I was discussing earlier. Again, the intent is for all vehicles which are coming to this dispensary to egress the site through that driveway closest to the building. So we're just, again, demonstrating that a typical passenger vehicle can in fact circulate through the site, make its way across the front of the building, around, and then exit through that portion, through that driveway. Just to hit on a few additional points, and I'm mostly touching on some items that came up in the letter from the board engineer's office. So there'll be no changes to existing utilities on the site. We will continue to utilize the existing gas, electric, sewer, etc. These services will continue to be utilized. Were the board to look favorably upon this application, as requested by the borough engineer, we would locate all those utilities, and then we would show them on the plan. So we certainly agree to make sure that we're doing that and showing where all the existing services to the building are. As it relates to stormwater, we note that there's no increase in impervious coverage or overall disturbance, and as such, will not be required to install any stormwater management improvements. And along that same theme, there'll be no grading changes proposed. However, I do note, and I'll testify here tonight, that we will ensure that the ADA accessible route and parking space conforms to the ADA standards for accessible design, specifically the latest revised edition. And as requested by the board engineer, we will add notation to the plans indicating the same. We will ensure that ADA accessible parking space meets the requirements of the ADA standards for accessible design. So lastly, while I believe I touched on many of the comments in the board engineer's letter here tonight, I do just want to stipulate that any outstanding comments which we have not addressed as part of this submission, and I know there were some comments with respect to signage, we certainly agree to comply with all of the comments within the board engineer's letter, which again is dated July 18th, 2024.
I have no
my testimony, but
no
if any
further
questions,
questions.
comments, I'm open for questions here.
Given that we're approaching our curfew, I'm just going to suggest that we just have questions for our professionals while we have everybody here. So, Mr. Behrens, turn to you if I could for your questions.
Sure, thank you. And maybe I'll offer some questions and comments and you can address them maybe at the next meeting or give a quick answer. So we did prepare a review memo dated July 19th. Just a few questions. So from a parking perspective, I think you mentioned that there's 116 spaces. Is that existing or proposed or both?
There's 117 under existing conditions, 116 proposed.
Okay, so just the one comment was, recognizing that you're only focused on this one building, you have 3 buildings technically on one lot. So to look at the global parking perspective. So again, I think you might need to look at it. You don't have to answer that tonight, but I think technically you probably have to look at the total picture. Maybe not. Feel free to address that at the next hearing. Signage we covered. I did have one comment just about in front of the site along Route 4, you have a grass strip, whether or not that should be landscaped. Just a question we posed. Again, you can feel free to address that at the next meeting. It was unclear to me exactly where the front lot line was on the site plans. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. I see a lot of site plans. I'm not an engineer, but to me, it was unclear where it's located.
Yeah. If you want me to answer, I can. The sight line, the front property line is located here. There is an NJDOT easement along the front, so that's probably part and parcel. There's a little bit of confusion, but certainly we can clarify that for you and resubmit it.
It was unclear to me personally. So
no,
we answered the generator issue. I'll see. We'll come back with that. No further questions for tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Rob Costa, comments, questions for the.
Hang on 1 second, Chairman. Just a couple things. Dan, good evening. How are you doing? Number one.
Good, thank you.
Good seeing you. The only question I have, I guess everything is going to come basically go for Route 4 through the one driveway. Obviously, the deliveries will go around back that you guys, I'm sure, can schedule in that respect. Garbage in the same respect. If everything's inside, that makes it so much easier. But if somebody comes off and they go in front of the, I guess, the furniture store, Ethan Allen, that's where most people would come through. The only thing maybe, and again, I know Brian is on here also, and Andola, who's the traffic engineer, and Dan, obviously yourself. I'm thinking maybe we need some sort of rumble strips or something to possibly slow that traffic down a little bit. That's going to go in front of the other store. Basically, it's a mall, is what you're creating, and if this does get, hopefully, it does get successful for you guys. If that entry becomes, I don't think you're diverting everybody around the back. I would imagine your customers are going to come through the front.
Yes, I would agree with that.
So maybe similar to what we have at Total Wine, over there, you got the main access aisle passing through all the stores. And then we have some traffic quelling devices in there. And I'm not sure if you're going to need some sort of signage there, some directional signage as far as in and out. And I know it's governed obviously by DOT, but maybe you want to think about that when you guys come back.
Yes, Mr. Costa, I think those are good comments, and I think I would just reiterate with respect to those comments. We certainly agree to evaluate that, and to some of the testimony that was provided by Blake and Ben earlier. We're going to continue to work with the police department on these matters. So I just want to emphasize that. So certainly we'll evaluate that, and we'll also evaluate that with the police department.
Right.
So when we come back, we can provide more testimony to that effect.
Okay, no drive-through, no thought about a drive-through or anything like that, nothing, okay.
Nope.
Right, I mean, that would be it as far as the utilities, and again, if it's a 7 kW, Dan, I would imagine there's enough gas service there, but again, I don't know. I would imagine the HVAC units are gas-fired. Again, I don't know if there's enough power there to do that, so I think you need to look into that also.
Yes.
If not, call public service. They're digging up every road in Bergen County, so I'm sure they could give you another line if they had to.
They're certainly digging up all the roads in my towns as well.
Yeah.
So certainly emphasize with that.
All right. Other than that, that's it. And then again, go over maybe with the chief, with Chief Walker, as far as security lighting, anything like that. If needs to be upgraded, maybe we need to look at that a little more closely.
Understood. We can look at that and provide additional testimony at the next hearing.
All right, that's it. Other than that, Chairman, I have no questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Costa.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Merman.
Mr. Dunlea just revised and introduced new drawings. I would like to request full-size copies sent to Ed Alter, please, to be distributed to at least me, if not the other board members, before the next meeting.
Of course, we certainly agree to that.
Full size, please.
Understood, and we'll do.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Carney, Mr. Gibbons, I noticed your hands are up. I'm gonna ask, we hold board member questions for the next meeting since we've just exceeded our curfew.
Mr. Chairman, my only request would be if there is requests for something specific, they want to see at the next meeting.
That's, yeah, if there's a plan comment, Mr. Cray, ask you first.
No, I didn't even realize I had raised my hand. It was an accident.
Okay, that's just showing I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Gibbons?
I did have something they can certainly address the next meeting. In looking at this circulation and being someone who's driven down Route 4 looking for a business, everyone is going in that egress exit. So I'm a little concerned that that's where people are going to be going in and out. We can say that they're going to go around the back of the building. It's not going to happen. People are going to go in the exit. So you don't have to answer me now. I just wanted to put it out there. You know, I've driven down that road a million times looking for Wendy's, and I'm not going in a business before it to get into it. So putting it out there, we can talk about it next time, but that's my concern.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. Any other questions from the board? If you can stop sharing your screen now, that would be great, just so I can get back to everybody in the gallery. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Comments, questions from the board as far as any other plan changes right now? Okay. We'll come back to this. Let's obviously we've got some more ground to cover, and certainly we've got a little bit of time. And yeah, Mr. Dudley, as Mr. Merman requested, if you go ahead and just submit full-size rendering of the exhibits you presented this evening, that would be greatly appreciated. Ms. Steinle, if you would do the formalities as far as us.
Yes, so the board's next public meeting is on August 28th. We have off on the 14th. So Mr. Gilson, would you consent to an adjournment of the time for the board to act on the application until that meeting?
Of course, and if you need me to sign something to that effect, I'm happy to as well.
All right, your testimonies or your statement's fine. Just for the record, the application for Sweet Spot River Edge LLC, 75 Route 4 East, Block 4, 1415, Lot 1.01 will be carried to the board's August 28th meeting without further notice.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Steinle. We have nothing further on the agenda this evening, so with that, I will look for a motion to close, please.
Stanley, good night. Good night, everybody.
I think I got Mr. Cray, I got a first, do I have a second?
Second.
I think I got a second from Mr. Bustard. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed, any abstained? All right. Meeting is now closed at 9:53 p.m. Good evening, all. Thank you very much.